We meet once again to discuss further about group counselling, various techniques involved in that, various processes involved in that, various types and how group counselling is actually put into action. So, let us have a brief look at the objectives. To have a brief glimpse of techniques useful in group counselling, to discuss the types of group therapy or counselling, to have a brief glimpse of group therapy or counselling in action, to list out the advantages and disadvantages of group counselling. Let us now have a brief glimpse of techniques which are useful in group counselling. We are going to discuss now about a variety of techniques. Reflection allows members to understand fully each person's comments and how they can relate to what they just stated. Active listening allows members to be very aware of their listening skills within a group and how important they are. Active listening allows the group to be more open with each other when they know their group members are attending to their feedback. Clarification allows members to be very concrete with others about comments made in the group. Summarizing allows members to see the bigger picture of what was said in the group by doing a recapitulation of what was said, provides comfort within the group. Linking allows members to see how their problems connect with others in the group and how they have the same concern. Encouraging allows members to be more open with group and makes sharing personal feelings more inviting. Focus allows counselor and member to give attention to group concerns. Cutting off allows counselor to keep the group on topic and give everyone a chance to share. Drawing out allows counselor to bring forth quiet members' comments. Rounds allow each member to share within the group. Dyads allow members to pair up with a partner and learn more about another member. Word or phrase round allows members use their vocabulary when describing how they felt about something within the group session. Comment round allows members to share their personal comments about the specific session. Icebreakers allow members to warm up to group members when beginning group. Modeling allows members to see counselor as a role model in group work and behaviors that can be applied to them personally. Use of eyes allows counselor to have direct eye contact with members that are sharing. It will allow the counselor to draw out quiet members to speak. Tone setting allows members to establish a mood for their group. Rather, it needs to be a tone that is serious, social, supportive and formal. Use of leader's energy allows members to see counselor excitement about their new group, topic and activities. Empathy allows members to convey to other group members that they understand and will not make fun of anyone. We have seen a variety of techniques which are generally used in counselling and group psychotherapy. Each of these techniques is used differentially by a variety of counsellors, by several counsellors in different ways as and when required as a part of the group counselling. Now, let us look at what makes a group counselling work. When people come into the group, they interact freely with other group members. They tend to recreate those difficulties which they brought along with them to the counselling in the first place. Once the difficulty is resolved, alternative behaviors are looked at, they are learned and individual develops new social skills as ways of relating to people in this process. It provides a safe environment to experiment with new behavioral patterns, improve communication skills and receive feedback from others with similar concerns and interests and problems too. Let us now look at the types of counseling and therapy. We should first talk about the traditional group psychotherapy. When traditionally group psychotherapy has been done, it involved a relatively small group of people or patients in a clinic or in a hospital setting using a variety of procedures. And this usage of procedures depended upon the age, the needs, the potentialities of the patients and the orientation and the approach that the therapist follows. The degree of structure and the patient participation in the group process varied in different types of groups. Let us take, for example, a didactic group therapy. This consists of a presentation of more or less formal lectures and visual materials to the patients as a part of the group. For example, let us take an alcoholic patients group. Here, they may be shown a film which depicts the detrimental effects of alcohol usage, excessive drinking upon the human body, and this is followed by a group discussion later. Let us now look at another technique, psychodrama. This was developed by Moreno in 1950s. It has proved beneficial to the patients who make up the audience as well as those who participate upon the stage. Moreno noticed that when children were encouraged to act out whatever they wanted to tell, some story for example, instead of merely reading it out from a book or a paper or just listening to them, these children often displayed unexpected depths of feeling and understanding. Moreno thus saw psychodrama as a vehicle for expressing those strong emotions, acquiring insight into one's own behavior and realistically evaluating the behavior of others as well. Psychodrama is a directive treatment in that the therapist controls the mechanics of the therapy session. However, it is also non-directive in the sense that the emotional content of the sessions arises spontaneously out of the activities of the participants and emotional content cannot be direct. This is an interesting and important technique of group therapy which is based on role-playing techniques. Members of the group here enact unrehearsed role plays with the group leader serving as the director. Other group members are actors in this protagonist's play, that is, one person is the protagonist while all the others are actors along with him. They give feedback to the protagonist as members of the audience or as actors as well. This form of psychotherapy or counselling frees the individual to express his anxieties, hostilities or relive the traumatic experience which he has been facing in a particular situation which stimulates real life situations. But at the same time, it is done in a more sheltered way. The goal here is to help the individual achieve emotional catharsis, increased understanding and improved interpersonal relationships and competencies. Another form of counseling or psychotherapy is the usage of T groups. The first T group, here T stands for training. This was conducted at National Training Laboratories in Bethel, Maine in 1946. Levin's ideas about group dynamics formed the basis of original groups. Since then, T groups have been focusing upon interpersonal relationships. Members of such groups are likely to learn from the experience of how one's behavior in a group influences the other's behavior and vice versa. Another type is encounter groups. In the 60s and 70s, entire field of group psychotherapy has been changed by the advent of these encounter groups. Some encounter groups stem from the sensitivity training or T groups which we have just talked about. They were intended for normally functioning people who wanted to grow, change and develop. These are directed towards helping normal individuals learn about their own feelings and behavior, how it affects themselves and others, while other groups are directed primarily towards treatment of personal problems and hence tend to be an extension of traditional group psychotherapy. These groups took many forms, like the minimally structured groups of Carl Rogers to the highly structured open-ended groups of William Schutz. Encounter groups usually consist of some 6 to 12 participants with 1 or 2 group leaders. Their specific goals may vary considerably depending upon the nature and orientation of the group. The focus is upon providing an intensive group experience which helps the members work through emotional problems and achieve more effective coping techniques. The group situation involves intensive give and take. It's much closer to the social reality than is the traditional individual therapy. In fact, it typically goes beyond the conventional social reality in terms of the honesty and frankness it demands in interpersonal interactions, which is usually not possible in our daily interactions. You agree with me? Emphasis is upon removal of masks, the free and honest expression of feelings, and the resolution of confrontations and other interactions which emerge within the group. And this, when it is done, it requires immediate and prompt feedback, both negative and positive, from other group members. Usually, a good deal of support and affection develops within the group, especially for members who are experiencing periods of crisis. The techniques used may be non-verbal techniques such as warming up exercises which facilitate awareness and group interactions, verbal techniques to facilitate the group interaction, to provide feedback and to focus upon personal problems. One method is to ask a member occupy the hot seat while the others provide feedback about their reactions to the group member and his behavior. A variation of this technique is called positive and negative bombardment, where the group members are instructed to say only negative or only positive things about the person who is occupying the hot seat, with the condition that they must be sincere. Another form of therapy is cognitive behavioral group therapy. In this type of therapy or counseling, the focus is on increasing the skills and comfort of people in social situations. The themes of the particular sessions are often selected by the therapist who has the prior knowledge of the person's problems, the client's problems. He or she may model alternative ways of handling the situations. Role playing is accompanied by social reinforcement and feedback, and homework tasks are also assigned. In cognitive behavioral therapy or counseling itself, certain other techniques are also employed, like graded task assignments, where assignment of tasks is done in a graded manner. Examination of specific types of distortions which may arise in social interactions, like overgeneralization, imagining catastrophes. Examination of such distortions helps the group members in identifying where the problem lies. Group marathons is another type of counseling or psychotherapeutic technique. It is an extended one-session group experience which breaks down defensive barriers which individuals may otherwise use. It usually lasts for a minimum of 24 hours. Frederick Stoller and George Beck pioneered this concept in 1960s. Group marathons have worked successfully with substance abusers in rehabilitation programs and well-functioning individuals in other group counseling settings. Another form is self-help and support groups. Self-help groups usually develop spontaneously. They center on a single topic and may be led by a lay person with little formal group training, but with experience in handling a stressful event which has brought the group together. Such groups can be short-term or long-term, but they basically work to help the members gain greater control of their lives. Support groups, on the other hand, are also organized by established professional helping organizations or individuals. Well, that was about various types of groups in counseling or psychotherapy. Now let us look at these groups in action, how they actually put or apply. What we are going to discuss about now is based upon the categorization based on their goals and process. Psychoeducational groups, for example, are also known as guidance groups or educational groups. They are preventive, they are instructional. Their purpose is to teach the group participants how to deal with a potential threat, for example, AIDS, a developmental life event, for example, old age, or an immediate life crisis, for example, loss of a loved one or loss of property or some catastrophe or trauma. Counseling groups, on the other hand, also called sometimes as interpersonal problem solving groups based upon the situation, based upon the context in which they are used, they seek to help group participants to resolve the usual yet often difficult problems of living through interpersonal support and problem solving. An additional goal is to help participants develop their existing interpersonal problem solving competencies so that they may be better able to handle the future problems. The non-severe problems like career, personal, social, educational, developmental concerns are frequently addressed in these counseling groups. Group counseling is more direct than psychoeducational group in attempting to modify attitudes and behavioral patterns. Group counseling stresses the effective involvement of the participants, whereas psychoeducational group concentrates more upon cognitive understanding of its members. Now, psychotherapy groups, on the other hand, sometimes known as personality reconstruction groups, are set to help individual group members remediate in-depth psychological problems. Group psychotherapy often takes place in inpatient facilities like in psychiatric hospitals or other mental health facilities with residential settings, because sometimes it becomes necessary to have a close watch and control over the people involved. Now, coming to the task and work groups. Task groups help members apply the principles and processes of group dynamics to improve practices and accomplish identified work goals. The task or work group specialist is able to assist groups such as task forces, committees, planning groups, community organizations, discussion groups, study circles, learning groups and other similar groups to correct or develop their functioning. We have been discussing about various techniques used in group counseling, various types of group counseling, how they are applicable in daily life setting and in a variety of settings around us in the society. Now, what is the role of the group counselor in all these? The role of group counselor is very important in facilitating interaction among the members, help them learn from one another, assist them in establishing personal goals, and also provide continuous empathy and support to the members, and also check if the members have carried their learning experience from the group which is in action and putting it into practice in the outer world which they really live in. Let us now have a look at the benefits of group counseling as well as the limitations of group counseling. Let us first go into the benefits of group counseling. The benefits of group counseling include being able to learn more about how he or she is perceived by others, experience a sense of acceptance and belonging, discover that she or he is not alone in the difficulties being experienced, hear ideas from others which enhances his or her ability to make decisions and solve problems, benefits from the experience of being helpful to others, learning to constructively express his or her feelings and ideas to others, gain encouragement by observing the success of others, learn new social techniques, ways of relating, and how to better cope with difficulties, provide diverse views, responses, and feedback, experience a social atmosphere which is similar to the real world. One can test out and practice new behaviors. One can practice new interpersonal skills as well. Let us now have a brief look at various research studies which have shown the benefits of group counselling. Group counselling can be used to help the 9th and 10th grade students learn social problem solving behaviors that help them in career decision preparation. This was according to a study done in 1996. 2000 study by Peterson and Pryor has shown that groups can promote career development in general and can be used effectively in vocational planning with some undeserved populations such as battered and abused women. 1999 study by Marotta and Asner has shown that group treatment under the right conditions can help adult women improve their functioning and general subjective well-being. A 1993 study by Livney, Sherwood, Hawes has shown that group counselling and psychoeducational programs can help persons who have sustained heart attacks deal better with stressors in their life. 2001 study by Vinay, Henry and Campbell has shown that group intervention with adolescent offenders can help them increase their maturational processes, especially the ability to work in a sustained way and to achieve a sense of relationship with others. Having said all these, we should still remember that there are limitations. For any method, exceptions are always true. Some client concerns and personalities are not well suited for groups. Some individuals may not be dealt with in enough depth within groups. Group pressure may force a client towards certain actions like self-disclosure even before she or he is really ready. Groups may lapse into groupthink mentality in which stereotypical, defensive and stale thought processes become the norm, thus suppressing creativity and problem solving. Individuals may try to use groups for escaping selfish purposes and disrupt the group processes. Groups may not reflect the social milieu in which the individual members normally actually operate. Hence, what is learned from the group experience may not be relevant in real life context. If groups do not work through their conflicts or developmental stages successfully, they may become regressive and engage in non-productive and even destructive behavior such as scapegoating, group narcissism and projection. There may be less individualized attention from the counselor in a group setting. Confidentiality is more difficult to maintain. There are concerns with conformity and group pressure, and scapegoating may occur. In today's session, where we have discussed the second part of group counselling, we had a brief glimpse of techniques which are useful in group counselling. We discussed about the types of group therapy or counselling. We had also a brief look at the group therapy or counselling in actual action or application, and we have also listed out the advantages and disadvantages of group counselling.